Yeah, so you can start with your queries if you have any. You know the drill. So you are doing the minimization of expressions perhaps this week, right? So K-map and Queen McCluskey, these two methods for reduction of expressions. So is there any doubt there? These are not very difficult methods. However, uh, I hope I have explained quite clearly enough, but even then there is a lot of reference materials available, and you can, I give you full freedom to go and look into any of the reference materials available over the internet. Like I told you specifically not to go to the internet for your complement representation understanding, but for this one you can easily go to the internet and all the materials are okay. So it is very standard, and there is uh, no ambiguity in any one of it. uh, you can actually see there. There is some uh, differences in representation you might notice, the way I have formed the K map and others are doing it, but the idea and the technique remains the same, so there is not much difference there. If you have anything to understand specific, anything you have some doubt, something you need to clarify, that is the purpose of this live session. Otherwise, what is the point of coming here? I am already sending you the lectures. You can happily see them and do your tutorials. When you have this time, you do some interaction. That is the purpose of this live session. Doubt I mentioned above. Someone has written here. Let me see. He has not written in the chat. Acha. Okay, so actually, so someone has written here. If for creating a AND and OR gate using CMOS logic gates, we can just exchange the VDD part with the VSS part in the NAND and NOR gate rather than using a NOT gate at the NAND and NOR output. Will it be correct? Also, we can create XNOR gate using XOR gate with only with 8 CMOS logic gates. XNOR I am pretty sure, because I have seen the XNOR circuit using 8 CMOS logic gates. However, AND and OR, as you are saying, this like I have done little exploration, to be very frank, on this, how the gate circuits are being made by the CMOS transistors. So I have not directly come across this idea of reversing the VDD and VSS part in the NAND and NOR gate, and whether it will work or not. So actually one needs to go through the switching logic. So you make the circuit and go through the switching logic, and I think we have understood while going through the lectures, we have understood how to go through the switching logic, how to understand whether when we have inputs A and B as some 0 or 1 something, then how the different all the switches in the circuit are responding, whether they are on or whether they are off, and accordingly what is the output getting generated. So you can go through the switching logic. I have not gone through that switching logic actually, so if you had requested me to go through it, I would have gone, but I told you also to check the switching logic. So if you are satisfied by looking at the switching logic, you can send me a screenshot probably, and I will verify that. So I have not done it myself, so I cannot tell you exactly, and I have not also seen such formulations elsewhere. So if you have come across such a thing, then you please send it across to me and I can confirm whether it is correct or not. So the doubt, I hope everyone is clear about it, what he is talking about. So he is talking about that NAND and NOR gate CMOS implementation that was there in the lecture, and then the and OR gate we have implemented by adding a NOT gate to that NAND and NOR. So he is saying that the VCC and VSS, that is the power and the ground, VCC and the ground can be reversed in the NAND and NOR, and we'll get the AND and OR logic coming out of the same circuit. So you can actually try this out and see whether it happens. To express a quantity in complement representation, we need to know only the radix of the system. He's asked, sir, shouldn't it be true? Yes, you need to know the radix of the system, but that is not the only thing you need to know. So here the question was, we need to know only the radix of the system. So you cannot just know the radix of the system and do the representation. You have to also know the length of the number in which you have to represent. So the radix system may be your 2's complement, but I can ask you to, suppose you represent 7 or minus 7 for the matter of fact in 2's complement representation. But if I don't give you the number of bits that you are supposed to use, then what would be your answer? So you would be in a dilemma, and probably you would assume some number, and perhaps you would assume the minimum at the least number possible. So you would give me the representation. But if I have to actually tell you, so this information should also come, that what is the length of the number in which you need to represent in the complement representation. So the length of the number or the number of bits required is also an important information which we need. So radix is not the only thing that we need to know. In any representation, but as a matter of fact, you need to know the length of the bits in which you need to represent. Okay. Anything else? Okay, so not much excitement out there, it seems. So I hope you are able to do your tutorials properly, because in that line only you can expect your exams, and most of the problems in the real world also in that line actually, in digital circuits and all. So that is a thing. And what else? I have something to discuss, like non-technical, that might give you some perspective to seeing your life. So if you don't have any further technical question, I will go into that. And one thing I thought about, that many of you were having some queries you had put up on that survey on the general introduction part, and I was thinking, when can I have a discussion on those questions and all. So it seems that the next week we are having the semester break, right? So there is no official classes in the next week. So if there is agreement, then I can still have the Tuesday and Thursday these hours. I can still come here and discuss on those topics. So in that regard, I will put up a poll, and you can like respond there. So whether you agree to it or not, then I will come and I will interact with you, yeah, in those matters. Someone has put up a question. Please discuss these questions. Can we express quantity minus 32 in 6-bit representations? Can we express quantity 32 in 6-bit representations? I think these are the two questions, not the other one. Okay, so a lot of questions are there now. Let me go one by one. So you see that here 32. So the number let us take the second question first. Number 32. So the quantity 32. So the quantity 32 in 6-bit representations. So here actually we were talking about some binary, I think. The context was that. And if it is binary, if suppose we are in the binary system, so the binary system can have the normal binary, then the complement representations like like 2's complement and 1's complement. So in those in that respect, because I have also mentioned bit, you see 6 bit. So bit means you are supposed to be in the binary paradigm. So here are the possibilities that you can express in normal binary, you can express in signed binary, in 1's complement, in 2's complement. Now check if 32 can be expressed in any one of these representations in 6 bit. So 32 is basically 2 to the power of 5. That means if you have a normal binary, then it would be the MSB, and all the other bits will be 0. So it can be represented in normal binary. So 6-bit representation is there for 32. However, for minus 32, so you know, when we have come across a signed number, now the MSB must be reserved in order to represent the sign. Okay. So then in 6 bit you have only 5 bit to represent the magnitude. So signed signed binary will not be able to represent minus 32. Also you check in 1's complement, 2's complement systems, because minus 32, for representing minus 32 you first have to have plus 32 and then do a complement of that number, and that plus 32 must also have a 0 bit and must also have a 0 as its MSB. But in complement representation, when you have to represent 32, you already consuming 6 bits for representing the magnitude, and there has to be a 7th bit for representing the sign 0, and after that you have to take the complement. So obviously minus 32 will be represented by minimum 7 bits. 6 bits cannot be used. Okay, so one he is saying that we can write minus 32 in 2's complement representation because of extra negative number. Yeah, right, very good. So actually this point I missed when I framed the question, I missed this point. So yes, because we told, right, we showed that there is an extra negative number in 2's complement representation. Yes. So it will be yes in this case. So thank you for actually pointing this out. It did not come across my mind. It did not come across my mind when I was framing this question. So probably if I had written minus 33, it would make a good sense. But I wrote minus 32, and the answer should be yes here. Right. Very good. So for the rest of the class also, so I correct myself here. So this question that had been framed, whether we can represent minus 32 in 6-bit representations, then this should be yes. 2c we can write, but the answer is that in 6-bit representation, in any 6-bit representation actually. So if you have one 6-bit representation where you can express minus 32, then that is fine. The answer should be yes in that case, because in 2's complement representation you have that extra negative number which is the largest number, and you can express it there. This is a good point that that has been raised, and it cleared the doubt. Even I did not look at it in a very proper way, so I missed this point. Okay, another question is there. Binary addition algorithm does not work in sign magnitude, radix complement, diminished radix complement. It does not work in sign magnitude. Binary addition algorithm does not work in sign magnitude because you will not get the correct result. But in radix complement and diminished radix complement, the algorithm works because you are getting a correct result. To express a quantity in complement representation, we need to know only the radix of the system. It is I already discussed. It is not the only thing that we need to know. We also need to know the length of the number of bits which we need to represent the particular quantity. So I hope this is good. I think. Any other query? So I am thankful for that minus 32 question. So it actually should be yes. The answer should be yes. The answer that I had given there is no, but the answer should be yes, because we can actually represent minus 32 in 6-bit representation because of the extra negative number in 2's complement representation system. That is the point. Very good. They have looked into the lectures carefully. That means. Anything else? Anything else? Okay, not much, not anything. I think not anything or anything else. So let me put up something which might trigger some thought and some reflections within you. So let me try to share the whiteboard here. So this is actually a bit of a context also this has. So like you had sent so many questions to me, so there are other people who are also interested in this sort of explorations, and I had been interacting with some of them for some time. So one of them asked me some question, and in order to answer that, I thought on something, and then I prepared a presentation etc. also around that question, and while answering that, I thought that there is an important thing which has been mentioned in that answer, and it is a very fundamental thing also, which probably needs to be told to everyone. Probably many of us also have some understanding of it, but the awareness or the constant recognition of this fact is not present in most of us. Okay, so let us see this. So the question that had been presented, that question is also very interesting. So I will tell this question, but I will not go into the answer of that question in that manner as I had given in that presentation. So the question was uh, about the apparent conflict between religion and science, and also the that observation that we see that um, even so we can understand that there are that religious ceremonies and rites and rituals are not always having a logical background behind them. This seems to us, and if we ask most of them who are practicing such rituals, they will not be able to give us any logical answer behind why they are doing this. So the most common answer is because they are told to do this, they are doing it, based on faith or something. So that is fine, but in even in many scientific people or people who are exploring science, even we find that they are stuck in some scientific dogma. They are told that this is the way to look at things, and they are only looking at things in that particular manner. They are not trying to shift their perspective or explore other perspectives. So this phenomenon is actually the phenomenon of stubbornness, in a sense, which comes to human beings. So they are stuck at a particular line of thought and a particular mode of expression, and that is also fine. So I will not say this is bad, that is also fine, but what is bad is when you start thinking that your mode of expression is the only correct mode of expression. Then that becomes a problem, because then automatically there is a inherent acknowledgement that other modes of expression are wrong. So when you start thinking that your mode of expression is the only correct mode of expression, then other modes of expression become wrong modes of expression to you, and sometimes this leads to conflict. Conflict is still better, but it leads to intolerance, which is bad, which actually damages the entire peace and uh, uh, the structure of the society, the harmony of the society. It affects that. So that was from that concern actually I was given that question, and I tried to present something. But during that, what I actually told is something I want to put out in front of you. So probably you have a very good understanding of your physical body. So tell you when we ask you that what you are doing, or when we ask you about yourself, you describe yourself, so you will try to describe your physical body probably. So there are a lot of things you can describe about your physical body. So what this physical body actually does, now you try to understand this, what this physical body actually does, what is the characteristic feature of this physical body. The characteristic feature of this physical body is to express. Give a thought to it. Whatever we are doing is an expression, and that has to be done through the physical body. Suppose you have a brilliant thought in your mind, you have lot of things which is happening in your mind, you are thinking about a lot of things, but all those can remain without an expression unless your physical body is doing that. Okay, it remains without an expression. Probably a very probably, yeah, this can be a good example. Like many of us consider ourselves to be experts in some sports or some other thing, and we sit while watching the sports in TV. Nowadays cricket is going on, so we have a very good idea how the shot has to be played, how the ball has to be bowled, but we are not doing that, right? So everything is happening in our mind. So our physical body is not active in that expression. However, that person who is actually at the field playing the game, his mind is also working and his body is also expressing. So he is utilizing the expression of his physical body. So everywhere, everything has whatever starts in our mind has to have an outcome from our physical body. So that is the expression, we can say that is the expression. So this expression we have to learn, because physical body has to be trained first, and then one can actually express it uh, uh, one can execute that expression in times to go ahead. Like a child has to learn how to walk, so then has to learn how to write. But now if I tell you that we had to actually, you will never think that we had to actually walk, we had to actually learn writing. It has come to us now. But if you think back, you will acknowledge this fact that these are also something we needed to learn, and that learning came. How it came? Now if you think how it came, so that child observed that how people are walking and try to do the same thing, try to mimic the same thing. Now if suppose that that person, or let us assume this condition, that one is observing everything but for some reason not able to activate his physical body, for some reason not able to activate the physical body, then what will happen, that whatever learning has come, that will not express itself, and he will also not know whether he has actually learned or not, because only after the expression is perfected, then he will have a good foundation and a confidence that yes, now I have learned. So that is a thing. So we know that we have to pedal in order to cycle, in order to ride a cycle. But if you just ride a cycle and start pedaling, will you be able to do that? You will not be able to do that, right? You will fall, or you will need some time in order to learn it. So however, you have to do that expression, you have to start doing that expression. So the physical body is that body which does the expression. So everything we are doing in this world is done through the physical body, and that is our own specific expressions. Now while discussing the physical body, we also discussed another body which we have, which is the mental body or the mind. We discussed this quite together, but we must understand that these are separate. We can actually look at these two things separately, and in that example which I gave, that a person is unable to actuate the physical body for whatever reason, even then that person will have a mental body. He will have the capacity to observe, the capacity to think, the capacity to take some decision or do some intellectual activity in that brain. So those intellectual activity, those those intelligence, whatever is there, the memory, all these things, imaginations, all these things form the part of the mental body, and its characteristic is basically intelligence or intellect. Let me write intellect here, because this intellect is basically your personal intellect, and it comes through intelligence, memory, all these things are in the background while expressing this intellect. I think this would be double L probably. So this is what your mental body is doing. So your mental body is constantly observing this world. The observation of this world is happening through the five senses that you have. Those five senses are in the physical body, that is true, but even if your physical body is unable to express itself, your sense organs is always receiving the whatever needs to be received. Okay, the information around the world it is able to receive, and it stimulates your intellect, and you are always observing, you are always doing something in your mind. Okay, and that activity is always going on, that mental activity is always going on. This mental activity is driving the physical activity. I hope this is quite clear to you now. This mental activity is only responsible for driving the physical activity. The expressions are given after you have done a thought about it. So not all the thought is expressed, but whatever is expressed had a thought behind it. Please, what I want to stress on this fact. So it is almost like this leads to this, but that does not lead back to it. So every expression has a thought behind it, but every thought does not need to come out with an expression. So what is more important for us to take care of? More important for us to take care of is this body, because this is only what will give an expression, and that expression will be observed by the people around us. The society will observe our expression. So that is how we will come out to the society, right? And they will acknowledge us. So they will have an understanding of what we are and who we are. So the mental body is more important than the physical body, because that is the driver of the physical body. Now I want to point out to another body. I hope this mental body and physical body everyone understands, even though perhaps you have not been able to separate them as different entities. But now probably you might say that okay, they might be we might look at them as separate entities. But whatever be it, the understanding of that we are intelligent, we are intelligent people, or the intelligent living beings having a mind and then a body, then a physical body. All these things is quite it comes quite naturally, so we can understand these things very naturally. Now I want to point you out to another body that we have actually, and this perhaps you have all heard about, but probably you have not been able to acknowledge it very properly. This is the soul body. You have heard about soul. So you in common term also you say a lot of things about soul. Okay, so So what is that soul actually? What is that soul and what is its characteristic? What is its characteristics? How it is active in us? So when we think about ourselves as a combination of soul body, mental body and physical body, then the purpose of physical body and mental body is quite apparent. But what is that purpose of the soul body? What it is doing within us? This needs to be understood. What it is doing within us. Now I wish to point you to something which all of you have experienced, but probably have not given much attention to them. You have all experienced sometime or the other some intuition that this is what is going to happen, something good is about to come. This sort of intuition has happened within you. This is a place of inherent knowledge. You know something. You don't need to do any mental analysis in order to learn something. You already know it. That sort of knowledge had happened, that sort of knowledge has emerged from within us at random times in our life. And since it has been so random, we had not given much attention to it. But this sort of knowledge that happens, that automatically we know and that emerges out from deep within, so it feels as if it is emerging from deep within. So I also suddenly used a word which is also important, feels. It feels as if it is rising from within. There is also a very deeper feeling involved. So these sort of situations, when we find ourselves to have some inherent knowledge, we find ourselves to have a deeper feeling about something, an inherent feeling about something which is right, which we found out to be right later on also, later on in our life. Even if we had ignored it, we found that later on it is right. Many times this happens in us. This characteristic is the characteristic of our soul body. Its characteristic is to feel. It is not emotions as such. This is a feeling of something. It is just knowing it. We can also say a know, feel or know. It's a knowing, it's a knowledge. The feeling is not just a feeling of like anger or sweetness or affection like that. It is just a feeling of knowing something. You know it. It doesn't come with some emotion. It is just a feeling. It does not attach itself to any emotion. The emotion will come later. But at the very beginning, at that moment of spark, you just know it. And I am pretty sure all of us has experienced this. But we have ignored this part of ourselves. This part of ourselves we have kept ignoring. I wish to point you out to this so that going ahead you will be able to acknowledge that this is also a part of you which exists, and whenever you have such intuitions and all, you would be happy that this part of you is also expressing itself, trying to express itself. And one needs to understand as one is able to tap into this part of one's character or one's constitution, one would be able to live from a more deeper understanding of themselves. One will be able to live life from a deeper understanding of their own selves. As we know that if a person is of lower intellect, does not have so much of mental activity going on, their physical expressions will be very crude. Similarly, if a person is not having a higher level of soul's expression, their mental activity will be very crude. Their mental activity will be very crude in the sense I mean that they will be stuck in a definite pattern of thoughts, in a definite way of analyzing the world, looking at this world, definite set of decision making pattern, and all those things will keep on occurring within them again and again if they are not in, if their soul body is not active and in recognition of itself. What ultimately will happen, the person will keep living, their life will not be affected, life will go on. What will happen is this: eventually, actually this should drive the mental body, the soul, the feelings. So you can again understand, sometimes you have done this also, there is an inherent feeling and you are unable to ignore it, and that actually led to your decisions. The mental body was driven by that, and then your physical body expressed. This does not happen all the time, okay, because we are not tapping into our soul body all the time. Sometimes it pushes itself up and drives you, and then you are unable to ignore it at that time, but most of the time we are ignoring it. Now what happens, since we are ignoring this, since we have stopped this connection, we have ignored this connection, we have broken this connection, now we are finally living something called life. This life is not linked to our soul. This link is not there. This link is not there. Okay. But in a deeper level, who is actually living this life is this soul body only. This is what you are at a deeper level, and you are trying to live, trying to express yourself through the mental body and the physical body, and you call that you are living a life. Whatever that expression is, that is your life. Now if this life is not in tune with the soul body, then what will happen? Then will come frustrations. Frustration is definitely going to come, because the soul knows, soul will know whether whether you are able to acknowledge that knowing or not. That is a different thing, because you have already cut this connection. See, so you will not be able to acknowledge it, but it will know that it is not living a life aligned to its characteristic feelings and knowledge, and then that would lead to frustration. So ultimately what will happen? You will live a frustrated life. So that is why it is very important to come into a recognition of our soul, and there are actually ways to do that. For that you have to spend time with yourself to understand yourself, what you actually are. And I am using the term what, not who. What you actually are, you need to understand that. Our understanding is limited to our physical body and mental body. but there is an intermittent push that comes from our soul in order that we actually start recognizing it. So the next time when you find something like that, stop for a moment and start to recognize it, and you can start practicing this also by trying to tap deep within. This is a theoretical understanding that I have tried to present so that it interests you in order to know yourself better. There are actually certain practices which brings up the expression of our soul, which I will not go into, and these are practices, so one needs to practice. Actually, we can't talk about this. So, but this is the understanding. I tried to express it in a logical understanding. Hopefully you have come to an awareness now that there is another body also which we have, which we are not expressing, and due to that inexpression of that soul, that inexpression is the cause of the suffering and frustration in our lives. One of the basic causes of the suffering and frustration in our lives. If you can somehow go back and connect to the soul, connect to your inherent characteristic, then you will, whatever situation you may perhaps have a very bad situation around you, but since you are connected to your original mode of expression, inherently you will be content and peaceful. Inherently you will be content and peaceful because you are aligned to your soul. And here I would like to point out, like, throw in a certain term which we had used in our general introduction lectures: dharma. Dharma was what? Dharma is the characteristic of a certain thing that we call as dharma. So we must identify our own dharma. So that is the characteristic of our soul body, its characteristic knowledge, its characteristic feeling, what it is. That knowing, when you know that, then you will understand who are you and what is your dharma, and are you actually living your life according to your dharma. So if you are not living your life according to your dharma, then there will be frustration. I am not saying it cannot, it may be possible also for all of us to live a life 100% according to our dharma, but we must devote a substantial part of our life in order to live as per our dharma. Yeah, it is true that whatever I do, so I inherently understood at a very early stage of my life that I need to be a teacher. But do I always teach 24 hours a day? No, I have to do a lot of other things, and many things are not something which is in line with my soul. Okay, so I have a specific nature. I have come to understand that nature, but there may be more that I need to understand. Of course, there will be always more, but whatever I have understood about my nature, I do things which are against that. I have to do at certain points in my life, but I try to minimize those activities as much as possible, and I am able to do that because I know that these are not aligned to my soul's nature. If I was unaware of my soul's nature, then I would keep on doing those things because of the demand of society, because of the demand of my career, everything. And what would that lead to? That would lead to some inner frustration. I will not be able to understand why this frustration is coming to me. I am doing everything as people are telling me as I am required to do, but still this frustration is coming. I will not be able to understand why, what leads to this frustration. But since now I am able to acknowledge at least some part of my nature, I try to minimize those things and try to maximize those things which are in line with my nature, and that increases my satisfaction and content with my life. And this is what we all should try to do in order to live a better life. So that is what I wanted to share with you, and probably all of you who are present have got an understanding of this, and would try to. This is called awakening of soul. There is a term actually that is used popularly, awakening of soul. So you try to acknowledge, I would say acknowledge your soul. It is there. You acknowledge it, it will arise, it will awaken itself. Okay. So with that I would like to end. If there are any questions related to it, quick questions in 5 minutes I can answer. Otherwise we can stop here. Okay, thank you then. So I will leave, and I'm stopping the recording also. Thank you.